Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Hope everybody's doing good. Karl Bryan coming at you. Another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. I got a little bit of a treat for you here today. I've got a good friend of mine. He's been using profit acceleration software for forever and a day. And I've asked him to come along, and we're going to do a little bit of an interview because, again, he is an NLP master. In fact, he's the creator of the release method. He was also honorably discharged from the United States Marine Corps. He's got a master's in psychology, and I can tell you he's a brilliant, brilliant guy. In fact, it wasn't that long ago, Tom, that I was listening to a rap song, and I had to rewind and listen again, and guess what? Tom Kavanaugh's name was mentioned in a rap song, and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So without further ado, what I would like to do is introduce you to none other than Mr. Tom Kavanaugh. Tom, are you there, buddy?
Karl, I'm here. It's an awesome pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
You bet, bud. You bet. Okay, so look, I want to get straight into it. You and I have had tons and tons and tons of private chats. And I want, would you talk a little bit on purpose for me? You're talking to business coaches, and I know, you've got a frame for that, and it's incredibly important, but could you just talk on the topic of purpose for me?
Sure. Happy to do that. I think purpose is the main driver of everything that we do, not only as business coaches, but everything that we do outside of our professional life as well. And let me explain to you why that is. When we set a purpose, then what we're doing is we're literally opening up the doors to the subconscious mind to serve two directions, if you will. One is to motivate, or to be the driver of motivation to learn something. So the subconscious mind literally goes into higher gear while it's paying closer attention to whatever it is that you are studying and or training. And there's a difference between studying and a difference between that and training, as you know. So the subconscious mind is going to pay more attention. And the difference in studying is that while you're studying, although you're paying attention to the academics of what you're going through the subject, the fact is that when you're training, you literally learn it better because the physical movements while you're doing the learning literally integrate that learning into the subconscious mind. And that vast database that we have is called the subconscious mind. It's everything we've ever seen, heard, learned, or done in our lives. So it's critically important for us to understand that without a clear purpose, which is essential for learning, we're going to be very frustrated because we'll invest the time and maybe the effort, but we're not going to get the same results as if we had a straight purpose dedicated to that.
Nice.
That makes sense?
So it sure does. Okay, so another thing I'd like to hear about, planning for success, the absence of planning is obviously a bad idea, but I know one of the things you've also said to me is that plans are almost useless. Could you talk over the top of planning and plans?
Sure. So there's a famous quote by one of the best heavyweight fighters of all time. His name is Mike Tyson. And his quote is, "Everybody has a plan until they get hit in the face." Okay, remember that? And so the idea is that your plan is great until until the first action, whether it's in boxing and you get hit in the face, or if you're in a war theater and the first bullet goes zipping by your head and you realize that you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, whatever that is, The plan is there because what you've done is you've taken the time for planning, and that means that you've also taken into consideration what the contingencies could be. You may not be able to think of all the contingencies, but by the fact that you have taken the time to think of several alternatives to the plan, now you've got plan B, plan C, and D so that you can pivot quickly. And now you can, instead of facing imminent failure, you can find another way around, under, or through the problem.
No contingencies littered throughout. That's the bottom line there.
That's the bottom line. Is you got to have a contingency if your first plan doesn't work. And the fact is that when you have resiliency, which I'm sure we'll end up talking about resiliency in a moment or two, but when you have resiliency, what that does is it sets in your mind another purpose for you to get through what it is that you're going through. And suddenly options appear for you that you didn't think were possible.
Yeah. Okay. Love it. Love it. What about, so I want to talk directly to business coaches or business owners, as the case may be. But what are some of the most important traits that they could adopt, in your opinion?
Okay, so when we all sign up to become a business owner or a business coach, and business coaches are business owners also, when we sign up for that, okay, there's a couple of things that we have to do that the average person doesn't. In other words, we're basically professionally unemployable. We really don't want to work for anybody else. But with that comes a set of challenges. So flexibility in our thinking and our attitude is, in my opinion, probably number one trait that you can have as a small business owner or a business coach. You have to be flexible enough to think outside the box, outside the norm, and look for opportunities that your client or your customers are not going to ordinarily think about. Number two would be the word resilience. If you are resilient, that means that you're not going to give up easily. We know the percentages on how many businesses go out of business that start up within the first year, within 3 years, within 5 years. We know all those percentages. And the key is most of those people have not got the trait of resilience that helps them stay persistently determined to see their business through in the face of adversity, especially.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, so then how about the importance of goals, and let's say the importance of daily goals? Is it important that they schedule them? Would you encourage that? What would you say to somebody asking you that question?
Well, I think this is one of my favorite questions to answer because so many people think about goals in the wrong way. They think about them as a task that has to be done. And really what a goal is, it's a measurement of your improvement. So if we think about goals as a measurement of our daily improvement, then what we want to do is we want to take a look at how can we improve in several areas of our lives on a daily basis. In Japan, they call that kaizen. It's a daily improvement little by little. So what I like to do is I like to have goals that are written down because now they become real. If they're just floating around in your head, they're not real. They don't go anywhere. They just keep floating around. So when you have them floating around, it doesn't help. But if you have them written down, what that does is it stimulates the task-oriented mind into action. So the first thing, for instance, that I do in the morning when I wake up is a process known as psychological reversal. This comes from Dr. Roger Callahan way back in the early 70s and 80s. He was the first person to bring the concept of tapping sequences into the Western world. We hear about EFT and tapping and emotional freedom technique. All of that originated with Dr. Callahan. He said to me, in his 40 years of research, this was the most profoundly effective piece of work that he had accomplished in his lifetime. And it's simply a measure of taking each hand. If you know what the side of the hand is, we call it the karate chop point. If you were to take that part of your hand, put your palms face up in front of you, and tap that part of your hand to the same part of the opposite hand and tap it exactly 35 times, that will literally reset your psychological profile so that, it's basically when we wake up, you've heard of waking up on the wrong side of the bed. If you do this, then that reverses what happens, the polarity of the energy in your body. It has to do with the central and the governing meridian systems, and the energy can be reversed. The flow of energy can be reversed by several things. You can be startled, you could have a nightmare, any of those types of things that happen during the night. When you wake up in the morning, you just don't seem right. So if you just make this a daily habit, then you never have to worry about working through the day in a funk, if you will. So that's the very first thing that I do. The second thing that I do is I heard something from Alex Hormozy just recently, and I really liked what he said. He said, get up when you wake up. And that's the best motivator you can have to get your day started, is get out of bed and get your bed made. And the reason I say make your bed is because it's the first accomplishment of the day. It gets your mindset into an accomplishment mode. And from there on, now you've already started the momentum of achievement. From there, I would go into whatever people would look at as their own personal meditation. Take time for you to get your mind straight, to get your head straight on what you want to accomplish for the day. If you sit down and journaling, that's a form of meditation. If it's just sitting there being quiet within yourself and thinking about how you want to work your day, the people that you might be going to see or being prepared, that's one way of doing it. And then obviously, I think practicing an attitude of gratitude once you're done with that for all the things that you've been able to accomplish, all of the things that you've received from all of the things that you've done, all the good things, all the other things. We do a lot of different things during the day that we take for granted. Sometimes the universe likes to reward us for that. So the attitude of gratitude is really good there. And then I would invest some time in learning. What I mean by that is, personally for me, as a photo reading instructor, I read an average of one book per day. It takes less than 30 minutes for me because of the style of reading that I do. But I recommend that anybody who isn't in that frame of mind invests at least 30 minutes a day in reading or learning something new that will help them move forward in their day. And then once you've done that, make sure that you get out and move. You do some exercises, whether it's walking around the park, whether it's going to the gym and working out, whether it's calisthenics, whatever that is, get some exercise, get the blood flowing, get the oxygen to the brain.
Yeah.
Have a really good breakfast, and then go to work only after you've taken care of yourself first. There's a reason why when you're on a plane, they talk about putting your mask on first if there's an emergency before you help anybody else. Because you can't help anybody else if you're not taken care of.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of, and by the way, I hear the Marine in you with the make sure you make your bed first thing in the morning.
That is an atomic habit that we had. Yes, for sure.
That is it. Okay. So what about like work? One of the things that business coaches business owners tend to struggle with is the work-life balance. So what would you say to somebody who said, look, what's considered a good work-life balance?
So we know that, we hear business owners brag about working for 7 years without taking a vacation, and that's how they get so far. And we hear other people talking about, climbing the corporate ladder. They're always there. They're burning themselves out. You can only do that for so long. The human psyche is not designed to work every single day, 7 days a week for 10 years or 5 years or whatever that is. So we need some balance. One of the things that I always say is that we've got to have input, we've got to have output, and then we've got to have rest. So I think part of that balance comes from, number one, making sure that you get a diet that is right for your body. There are different diets for different types of people. So whether it's a keto diet or eating right for your blood type, whatever that is, make sure that you have the proper type of diet for yourself. The second thing would be to have the proper amount of hydration per day, because when you start to feel lethargic or you're having trouble working through problems, it's normally the first sign that you're dehydrated in your mind. The brain uses a tremendous amount of water to do what it does with calculations and critical thinking. So a good rule of thumb there is half an ounce of water for every pound of body weight. If you're an exerciser and you really like to work out an awful lot, then I would up that to 3/4 of an ounce for every pound of body weight. That's a minimum. You can always drink more, but that's what I would say would be minimum hydration. And then from there, you want to have the proper amount of sleep. And in sleep, we want to talk about something called the REM cycle, rapid eye movement. That's every 90 minutes, your body goes through a cycle while you are resting, and it comes through the different brain waves. I'm not going to get into those right now, but the rapid eye movement is every 90 minutes. So see if you can program your sleep in 90-minute increments. So that would be 3 hours, would be 4.5 hours, 6 hours, 7.5, or 9. And if you can get on an average of 7.5 hours of sleep every night, you're going to be doing pretty good when it comes to the proper amount of sleep. And then a sufficient amount of exercise for you, whatever that means. If you're somebody who is, you're emerging from the hibernation of COVID, where a lot of people, I don't want to say they became couch potatoes, but they stopped exercising. They stopped doing all the things that they did to keep in shape because nobody knew what to do or where to go. So now is an opportunity where you can get back out into the fresh air. You can get out and start even a walking exercise program just to simply get the blood flowing every single day, but doing something every single day. And then finally, schedule some what I would call mini vacations. I would do, let's say, on an average, 1 3-day weekend every quarter. Get out of town, even if it's the next town over. Just get out of your circumstances, your environment, go someplace different, chill out, leave your computer at home. Don't think about work. Just clear your head and let your brain rest and recharge. That's probably one of the best things that you can do to reset your batteries, because I promise you, if you allow yourself to work continually through and through and through, what happens is it's the law of diminishing returns. You're doing the same amount of effort, but you're getting less production. It's because your brain's not operating at an optimum level. So when you can recharge it and you can let it get some fresh air in there and rest the all of the brain neurons and the neuronal connections, just let them recharge themselves. You'll be like a different person when you get back to work on Monday.
Yeah. That's like, and it comes back to the oxygen mask goes on your mask first. You got to look
Exactly.
at yourself, right?
Yeah, you gotta look out for number one person. I don't mean to be selfish, but really you got to be selfish about looking out for number one, because it's impossible for you to help other people at the level that you're capable of helping them if you're not fully recharged.
Yeah. Okay, so that's awesome, by the way. So speaking directly to business coaches, right? You've had a lot of success in this space. What would you say, like, what are the best areas for an up and coming business coach, or even a successful business coach that's rocking it? What are the areas that you would encourage them to study?
Well, first of all, I think the most important area of study for someone who's going to be in the public eye is public speaking. I know that public speaking is the number one fear of almost every single business owner who isn't used to doing public speaking. It's the number one fear. And there's been many studies done about this. People would just hate to be up on stage with people looking at them. And there's all different ways you can learn. I would recommend the easiest of all the different public speaking education that I've taken is Toastmasters International. It's a great learning environment. It's a very supportive environment. It's not expensive at all. And you get to be exposed to all different types of presentations, which is really going to build your confidence level. When we become what we call our rock stars in our own communities, when we do our presentations and so forth, the idea is that the more confidence you exude on stage, the more business you're going to get off stage. And so I think public speaking would be the number one suggestion there. Number two, I would read everything I could read on how the mind works in psychology. John Dewey, who's considered to be one of the originators of the business coaching or the coaching movement way back when, has a small book, very powerful, called How We Think. And then there's a woman named Hannah Arendt, Arendt, who has a book that's very, very thick and full of a lot of information and how the mind works. And so those two people were some of the originators of the entire philosophy behind coaching. So I would read those psychologies, and then I would look into, I mean, let's face it, in our business and our clients' businesses, nothing happens until something sells. Somebody sells something.
Yeah.
So I think marketing would be the critical part to be able to get people aware of what you've got, and then having an ability to sell it is critical. So sales and marketing would be next on that list. And then there's now a plethora of books out there that are available to read on business coaching. And there are some really good ones that I've read over the last few months. And I think that would be a really, really good way to get somebody into their proper mindset for business coaching.
Nice. Okay. So like, for me, you're like the Jedi mind trick guy, right?
Okay.
So that's like practical stuff that they should go and learn. And I agree with all of them. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Talk to me about building, what are we going to call it? A business coaching mindset. Business coaching mindset. How would I do that? How would you advise somebody to do that?
Well, I think the first thing in mindset is to establish your purpose. And every business coach is going to have a different, it's going to be the same, but it's going to be different. In other words, what I mean is that we all want to help our clients. Okay. So that makes it the same. But each of us has a specialty or proclivity for a specific type of client that we like to work with. So I think, first of all, the mindset that we need to have is we need to get into the mindset of our perfect avatar. What is it? What's the person? What's the type of person that we want to attract to our coaching business? And then when it comes to mindset, I think the first part that I would look at is find out, number one, exactly who you want to serve. Number two, find out where they hang out. And number three, go hang out with them and give away as much free, valuable information about their world that would have utility, like I said earlier, that they could put to use right now. So that when they leave that meeting that you're in, whether it's a Speed Connect meeting or whatever that is, a networking meeting, they're going to remember you more than they're going to remember anybody else because you gave them something that will help their business today. So be of service is what I'm saying. You know, I've heard you talk many times about your favorite athlete, Tom Brady, who threw the football hundreds of thousands of times for free before he ever got paid. And then he got paid really well just to practice, right?
Yeah.
So this is the same concept, is to give away as much free, valuable information. I mean, look, we have so much information at our disposal through the profit acceleration software, through all of our training, through all of our collaborations with the Ask the Expert calls. And I have never met a more high level group of coaching experts than what we have in the Ask the Expert calls. Every single one of these client advisors that we have is unbelievable. They have the answers every time anybody has a question. We have so much we can give that isn't going to cost us anything. It's only going to serve to build our foundation as the go-to. Remember, people are going to look at us like we are the go-to experts. When we give them that much free information, they are going to want to work with us. Now, do you have something available in your mindset that can serve each level of the person that wants to work with you? In other words, do you have a program for beginners? Well, we have flash coaching. Of course, that works great. Do we have something that maybe they're a little bit more involved and they want to learn more? We've got the group coaching program that just rolled out. 50-week agenda. Are you kidding me? That's like getting a master's degree in business going through that program. How could any business owner not want to be part of that? And then number three, the one-on-one with us as individuals. Because why? Because we know how to ask the right questions that get the right answers that will solve our clients' problems. So I think having that mindset to be of service as a business coach is probably the first step in developing an overall level of confidence and ability that will lead to a successful coaching business.
Love it. I always say you don't have a money problem. You don't have a client problem. You have a refusal to help people before they pay you problem.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
And the more, and what you're saying, studying versus training, studying is doing the course. Training is doing it over and over and over and over and over again until it becomes instinctual. So when they take your approach and they're delivering value, they're just getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. So when it comes time to start asking for the money, it becomes very, very organic. And yeah, that's the ultimate sales hack right there. Create an environment so that they say, can you help me do this?
That's exactly what it is, because it's organic. It's a natural evolution of the conversation and the interaction that you're having. Is they already know you're willing to help them in giving away the information. Now they want to be able to have you on a regular basis. And that's about as organic as you can get.
I love it. Mr. Tom Kavanaugh, I asked you to bring it and you brought it, my friend. Thank you so much. Any parting word here for our fine folks before we let them go?
I think it's a daily application for us. What I consider to be, if you've read the book Atomic Habits, you want to set a certain number of hours for each of the tasks that you've assigned for yourself, the goals, the daily goals of prospecting, networking, a solid follow-up process. The fortune is in the follow-up. There's no other way to say it. If we don't have a strong follow-up program or process and we're not willing to engage in it on a daily basis, then we're just shoveling sand against the tide, really. The follow-up for us as business coaches is that's the fortune right there. It really is. So I think that the solid follow-up leads to two things. It leads to good fulfillment, which then obviously is retention, and retention leads to good referrals. We know that a good referral is worth 10 times more in value than a warm introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, my friend, Tom Kavanaugh, we appreciate you, buddy.
Carl, thanks for having me on here. It's been a pleasure as always. And I look forward to listening to the podcast. I listen to it every morning when I'm walking, and I'll tell you why I do that. Because as my body's moving, I'm integrating all the learning that you share with us, and it has elevated my game to the highest level.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Have an awesome day.
Okay, awesome, Tom. Thanks again.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.